Gaur. If you think cattle are just slow, docile farm animals, the gaur is about to change your mind. This is the largest wild cattle species on Earth, and it looks like nature took a regular bull and decided to double everything. A mature male gaur can weigh well over a ton and stand nearly 2 meters at the shoulder. That is taller than 99% of people, except this is not a person. It is a wall of dark muscle with sweeping horns and legs that look like they were carved from stone. The pale lower legs give it a distinctive look, almost like it is wearing white socks, but there is nothing cute about a gaur up close. The most noticeable feature is the massive dorsal ridge running along its back. That ridge is packed with muscle, giving the gaur a silhouette that looks almost exaggerated, like someone turned the strength setting all the way up and forgot to stop. Gaur live in the forests and grasslands of India and Southeast Asia. They graze on grasses, leaves, and fruit, moving through bamboo thickets and dense woodland with surprising quiet for something so enormous. Family groups are led by experienced females. Calves stay safely in the center of the herd, protected by adults on all sides. It's a simple system, but it works. Even tigers think twice before approaching a healthy adult gaur. Habitat loss and disease from domestic livestock are their biggest threats. Quiet, enormous, and built like a living tank, the gaur proves that the most powerful animals do not always need to be loud about it. The gaur dominates the lowland forests, but high above the clouds, an even tougher giant calls home: wild yak. Life on the Tibetan Plateau is not for beginners. The air is thin, the temperatures are brutal, and the landscape stretches to the horizon like the surface of another planet. Yet in this extreme world, the wild yak looks perfectly at home. At first glance, it resembles a shaggy mountain beast from a forgotten era. Its long, dark fur hangs almost to the ground, forming a natural skirt that shields it from icy winds that would stop most animals in their tracks. Beneath all that hair is a broad chest and a set of lungs specially adapted for high altitudes. Where most animals would be gasping for air, the wild yak breathes easy. A fully grown bull can weigh over 1,000 kilograms. That's a ton of animal living above 4,000 meters, where the oxygen level is roughly 60% of what you'd breathe at sea level. Imagine running a marathon while breathing through a straw. Now imagine doing it every day of your life. That's life for a wild yak. They spend their days grazing on tough mountain grasses and crossing vast open plains. Females and calves form herds, while older bulls often prefer a more solitary existence. For something this large, the wild yak moves with surprising confidence over rugged, rocky terrain. Snowstorms can bury food for days, wolves patrol the edges of herds, and hunting has reduced their numbers in some regions. Strong, patient, and perfectly adapted to life above the clouds, the wild yak proves that true toughness is not about surviving a bad day, it's about surviving a bad environment every day. The wild yak endures the cold. The next animal endures something even older: time itself.
Muskox. It looks like it stepped straight out of the Ice Age, and in many ways, it did. This ancient Arctic mammal has survived for thousands of years in conditions that would break most large animals within a week. Its long outer hair hangs nearly to the ground like a heavy curtain. Beneath it lies a dense undercoat called kiviute, considered one of the warmest natural fibers on Earth, warmer than sheep's wool, softer than cashmere, and grown by an animal that looks like it was assembled from leftover mammoth parts. Muskoxen live on the Arctic tundra, where winters are long, dark, and bitterly cold. They survive by feeding on grasses, mosses, and small plants hidden beneath snow. It is a simple diet for a simple routine: dig, eat, endure, repeat. But what makes the muskox truly remarkable is not how it feeds, it is how it fights. When wolves attack, muskoxen do not scatter. They form a tight defensive circle. Adults face outward, horns pointing at the threat. Calves are tucked safely in the middle. It is a living fortress, and it is a strategy that has worked for thousands of years, long before humans were around to witness it. Every individual holds its position, No one breaks rank. It is pure cooperative defense, and it turns a group of herbivores into something wolves learn to avoid. Ancient, cooperative, and astonishingly tough, the muskox proves that sometimes survival depends not on running faster, but on standing your ground together. The muskox survives through unity. The next animal survives through sheer attitude. Cape buffalo. This animal has a reputation that even lions respect, and that is not poetic exaggeration. Lions that hunt Cape buffalo often end up injured or dead. At first glance, it looks like just another large grazing animal. Dark body, heavy build, nothing flashy, but that impression disappears the moment you notice the horns. Massive and curved, they fuse across the forehead into a thick shield of bone called a boss. That boss can stop a lion's claws, absorb a direct charge, and deliver devastating blows in return. A fully grown bull can weigh over 900 kilograms. They are not fast, they are not graceful, but they are famously, dangerously stubborn. Cape buffalo live across African grasslands, wetlands, and woodlands, usually staying close to water. Large herds spend their days grazing, resting, and moving together in a rhythm that looks peaceful from a distance, but beneath that calm is a collective temper that ignites fast. What makes Cape buffalo especially formidable is their loyalty. If a herd member is attacked, others will turn around and charge back into danger, not to flee, to fight. Cows will mob a lion, bulls will gore a predator off a fallen companion. That kind of collective aggression can turn a lion's carefully planned hunt into the worst decision it ever made. Drought, disease, and predators are constant challenges, but Cape buffalo continue to thrive across much of the continent. Bold, resilient, and extremely difficult to intimidate, the Cape buffalo proves that the most dangerous animal in the room is not always the predator. The Cape buffalo fights back with fury. The next animal takes a completely different approach. It disappears into the mud. Wild water buffalo. If you combined a bull with a swamp-loving giant, this is what you would get. The wild water buffalo is one of the most massive bovines on the planet, and it spends most of its time doing something surprisingly relaxed, sitting in mud. A mature bull can weigh over 1,200 kilograms. Its body is enormous, barrel-shaped, and built low to the ground. But the feature that sets it apart is the horns. Wild water buffalo horns can spread more than 2 meters from tip to tip. That is wider than most cars. They arc outward and backward in long, sweeping crescents that make the animal unmistakable from any distance. Despite that intimidating frame, much of the wild water buffalo's day revolves around something very simple: water. They love to wallow in marshes, ponds, and flooded fields. The mud cools them down and creates a natural barrier against biting insects. In water, they are surprisingly graceful swimmers for an animal this heavy. On land, they feed on grasses and aquatic plants, often grazing in the shallow edges of wetlands at dawn and dusk. Wild water buffalo are social animals. Herds are led by dominant females, and calves are fiercely protected by the group. But the biggest threat they face is not predators, it's genetics. Domestic buffalo interbreed freely with wild populations, diluting the gene pool until true wild water buffalo become harder and harder to identify. Wetland destruction has made things worse. Fewer than 4,000 truly wild individuals may remain. Huge, steady, and completely at home in muddy landscapes, the wild water buffalo proves that size alone cannot protect you when your habitat disappears beneath you. The water buffalo is built for the swamp. The next animal is built for something far more refined: the forest. Bantang. This may be the most elegant member of the entire cattle family. Where other wild cattle rely on bulk and brute force, the bantang survives on grace, alertness, and quiet resilience. A mature bull is a striking animal. Its body is sleek and muscular, coated in deep, dark chocolate brown that borders on black. The lower legs are bright white, as if the animal is wearing polished boots. It's a look that seems almost too refined for the wild. Females and younger animals are a warm reddish-brown, creating a beautiful contrast within the herd. Bantang live in forests and open woodlands across Southeast Asia. They feed on grasses, young shoots, and fallen fruit, often becoming most active during the cooler hours of early morning and late evening. During the heat of midday, they rest in dense cover, nearly invisible among the trees. Females and young form groups, while adult males often spend long periods alone, rejoining the herd only during mating season. It's a quiet, rhythmic existence that depends entirely on the forest remaining intact. And that's the problem. Deforestation and hunting have caused serious declines across the bantang's range. In some countries, they have already disappeared entirely. Graceful, alert, and quietly resilient, the bantang proves that strength doesn't always need to look intimidating. Sometimes it looks like knowing exactly when to disappear. The bantang is the elegant survivor. But the next animal took survival in a completely different direction. It got smaller. Anoa. It looks like someone took a buffalo and shrank it. Often called the dwarf buffalo, the Anoa is the smallest wild cattle species in the world. An adult stands barely a meter at the shoulder and weighs around 300 kilograms. Compared to its massive cousins, it's practically pocket-sized. But being small is exactly what keeps it alive. Anoas live only on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, where dense tropical forest covers much of the landscape. Their compact bodies allow them to move through thick vegetation with surprising ease, slipping between trees and undergrowth that would stop a larger animal completely. It's a perfect fit for island life, where space is limited and adaptability is everything. Unlike most cattle species, Anoas are usually solitary. They browse quietly on leaves, fruit, ferns, and whatever the forest floor provides, avoiding attention whenever possible. They're so secretive that even people living in nearby villages may go their entire lives without seeing one. There are two recognized types, the lowland Anoa and the smaller mountain Anoa. Both are critically endangered. Hunting and habitat loss have pushed them to the edge. The forests they depend on are shrinking fast, and the Anoa has nowhere else to go. An island species cannot simply migrate to the next continent. Small, secretive, and uniquely adapted to a single island, the Anoa proves that sometimes the most remarkable animals are the ones the world has barely noticed. And finally, from the smallest wild cattle to one that survives in a place so extreme, most animals would never dare try. Tamaraw. No one outside the Philippines has heard of it, and even within the Philippines, many people have never seen one. The tamaraw is one of the rarest large mammals on Earth. Fewer than 500 remain in the wild, all of them confined to a single island, Mindoro. It's a small, dark, powerfully built buffalo that stands about a meter tall at the shoulder. Its short, thick horns point backward in a tight V shape, very different from the sweeping arcs of its larger relatives. The tamaraw is stocky, low to the ground, and looks like it was designed to push through dense tropical forest without slowing down. And that's essentially what it does. Tamaraw are solitary and fiercely territorial. Unlike Cape buffalo or water buffalo, they do not form large herds. They live alone or in very small groups, patrolling the dense grasslands and forest edges of Mindoro's interior. They're aggressive when threatened, which historically made local farmers wary of them. That fear led to decades of hunting. Combined with habitat loss from farming and logging, the tamaraw's numbers collapsed. By the 1960s, there were fewer than 100 left. Conservation efforts have slowly brought the population back, but the margin for error is razor thin. Every individual matters. Every acre of habitat lost is a direct threat to the species' survival. Rare, fierce, and clinging to existence on a single island, the tamaraw proves that sometimes the toughest fight is not against predators or weather, it's against disappearing entirely. So, if you enjoyed discovering these incredible wild cattle, like the video, share it with someone who loves wildlife, and subscribe for more amazing creatures from around the world.